Hi MC, it's your friend here, your internet friend here, Daniel. I saw your video on dresses. Apparently you're going to Odette over the weekend, and I saw in your video. This is I'm coming by to say hello. I want to check up and see how you are and how you're feeling, because every time I see in the video that you're still upset about your friend situation and what's happened with your friends, uh, I get a little concerned because you are my friend. I have friendly feelings towards you. That I do have these concerns that you're not feeling the best. And the thing is, I do understand. I do understand I understand where you're coming from. Uh, my um, experience with friends is one of entry and exiting, where I've had a number of groups of friends. It was always exciting approaching the friends, but always nerve-wracking because you never knew exactly where you stood with friends, because it never making friends never gets easy. It doesn't matter how old you are or how many groups of friends you've been in. There's always the assumption that if you don't hear from a friend for a while, if someone never stops by, give it a couple of days, they don't come by, the first thing that pops into your head is, what's wrong? Has this person gotten angry at me, or no longer wants to hang out with me? We never hear from them again. I mean, the thing is, that's happened. It does happen. People, you'll meet people that you like, you get along with for a brief period of time, and then something will happen. You'll never see them again. I mean, that's part of the reality, and it's unfortunately because we experience this more often than the average person feels it, in terms of where you see what the standard kid does. The standard schoolyard thing is that uh, everyone wants to be pop. Everyone wants to be have that group of friends where you can hang out and have a good time. That's apparently what you had in elementary school, and sort of that kind of disappeared on you in middle school or in junior high. I don't know exactly what your situation was, whether it's junior high or middle school, because I know there's two different approaches to it. Um, and the thing is that although these things are survivable, I think there is sort of a lasting effect. There's sort of, you do remember sort of what's happened. It does affect you. And it does, and here's the thing is that it kind of turns around a little bit too, because just because you lost a group of friends and you wonder why people won't be your friend, that doesn't necessarily mean that you'll accept everyone who comes into your life and wants to be your friend. Uh, because everybody has their own likes and dislikes, and just because someone wants to be your friend doesn't necessarily mean that, in terms of personality and what you like, you want to be their friend, or a friend in the way that that they expect you to be friends in. Because people also, when people want to be friends, they have expectations as to how the friendship should go. I mean, this is how people see things personally. I mean, my preference is at this point in time where I am now, and that's not really a preference. Is where I am now. When I was younger in elementary school, this is sort of what sort of set me apart from everybody else. Is I was highly opinionated. I read a lot. I didn't do my schoolwork was horrible. I basically I was marked special right from grade one. But I liked reading, and I just wouldn't participate in class, so they marked me as special. I also, because my parents were Bostonian, we were up in Toronto. I had a fairly thick Bostonian accent, and so when they called, and this is where it began. They called me up to do to say something, you know. They did the oh yeah, that's what it was. It was the parts of the face, right? eyes, nose, mouth, and ears, right? But it was the Bostonian accent. It was eyes, nose, mouth, and ears. That was the Bostonian accent. And so every time they asked me, they said, okay, do it again. So I did it again. Eyes, nose, mouth, ears. And I go, what? Eyes, nose, mouth, ears. And I had to repeat it several times. Even though I was pointing to them. And then they, oh, you've got a speech impediment, you have to go for special ed. And that's when a lot of these things started, I started being pulled out of class. I went to these special ed classes, and it was from day one. And then I was the kid in elementary school who, like Charlie Brown, if you know who Charlie Brown is, the teachers at holidays whenever you give gift cards out, or you had to have a buddy who picked you out to do something, I was always the kid where they chose the popular kid. Whoever was popular they had a lot of extra cards. These were particularly the girls who were on Valentine's. They had a lot of extra cards, or for Halloween, they had a lot of extra gift cards that they had put in their box. And I would get a card that had somebody else's name scratched out on it, particularly the popular kid, and then rewritten and given to me. So basically, I got for Halloween, for Christmas, for Valentine's Day, and all those type of things, Easter, whatever it is. Every time they had those school holidays, I got the scratched out re-gift as ordained by the teacher. That's what I got every year. That was from grade 1 to grade 6. That was my experience. So I kind of knew from early on where I stood. I was always on the periphery. When we went out for recess, I'm not a person who enjoys the physical contact the way guys enjoy physical contact, where they're like fighting with each other. I was never that type of person. More often than not, I was smaller than the average kid in the school. I was fairly skinny. I was also young for the grade. And so, but my preference is because I did read a lot, I did enjoy the library. You couldn't stay in the library all day long. I liked hanging out with the girls and skipping rope. But back at that time, and even so today, if you had one guy hanging out skipping rope with all the girls, all the other guys will start beating them up, and start beating you up. And that's sort of where my experience is that I kind of stood on the periphery, watching the girls skip rope, and every once in a while they let me join in. But it was sort of a rare occasion. More often than I stood on the side. But that wasn't a problem for me anyways, because being a reader, a person who enjoyed reading, I was also a daydreamer, and I could sort of take any scenario that I was watching and create sort of my own scenario, my own entertainment from it. And that's kind of how I really sort of dealt with the whole, all the way up until, no, all the way up until through high school. It was basically everything was. I had my own world inside my own imagination. I would see things, but it was like the new Google thing they have called augmented reality. I've always had an augmented reality. I could see something within an instant, come up with a scenario, and make my own imagination out of it, on how things would go. So my reality has always been augmented. But that kind of, these things like reading or whatever it is, always sets you up and sets you apart from the average society. So no matter what group you're sitting in with friends, or what group you're trying to experience at the time, because you never actually fit in, you're sort of just there on the periphery. You understand that you were there on the periphery, and it didn't matter how hard I tried to be cool or how hard I tried to fit in. It never mattered. I always ended up back where I had been before, and it didn't take long. It usually took within a day. Within a day, I was back to where I was before. So a lot of what I did and the way I behaved simply was my own particular choices. And I said I did things like at one point in time I tried to fit in with one crowd in junior high. Junior high was at my time everyone was into disco, and particularly if you were white or you were Greek or you were Italian, you had to be into disco. But you couldn't be into funk because funk was restricted to black people. This was back in the 70s. But the thing is, I liked funk. I liked a lot of black music, and I liked listening to, and they had these, back then they had black channels. And I liked listening to black, but I wasn't supposed to be listening to them. And so I got into trouble from a lot of other kids that I was listening to black channels. Oh, you shouldn't be doing that, Daniel. You know that's for black people. It didn't bother me at all. And so I was never, I did things, groups expect you to conform. But I was never able to conform in the manner that most groups expected me to conform. And this is true even till today. My preference is, I do a lot of studying with quantum physics and stuff like that, and a lot of heavy technical stuff, heavy science stuff. And I enjoy it. This is great. This is cool. I like my research. But when I want to do something different, I want to do something different. And one of the other things I like to do is I like the stuff on the internet called Kawaii. That I found the stuff in Japan called Kawaii, and it's all centered towards the younger 8-year-old to 15-year-old crowd, and they're primarily girls. And because Kawaii has nothing, it's not something that's sexually oriented. As a matter of fact, Kawaii is you have to simply throw away your sexuality. It has nothing to do with sexuality at all. And when you talk to, I have other geek friends who are into anime and stuff like that, but particularly when you're talking to guys, and anyone who's been to the anime cons knows this, and that when you're talking to a guy about anime, more often than not they're talking about a specific type of anime called hentai. And just the way regular guys watch porn, hentai is the anime porn for geeks. And it's all these idealized girls, and they're all about these fantasies and how lucky, this is not appealing to me. I don't care about this. I have no interest in that whatsoever. And so in my leisure time is I want to hang out. I want to, do the tea parties. I want, the Kawaii tea parties. I want to do that. I'm looking into, I've got my own sewing machines now. I'm looking into making my own clothes to do a version of Kawaii for a guy like myself. I'm not a pinky pink person. I do like pink, but it can't be all pink. There has to be a variety of different colors. And I'm pretty much a random person in terms of my likes and dislikes of color. So I don't know if I'm going to make something that's all matchy-matchy, or I'm going to do something that's really eclectic and different. But this is fun to me. Exploring this type of stuff is fun to me. But if I was concerned, and this is where you have to get to this point at some point in time. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be short and quick to do this. But if you can find your own place that you're more or less happy with, then you can start moving on from there and exploring out and realizing that not having the friends the way you have in a conventional sense is actually quite freeing, because you're no longer restricted to the conventional thoughts and ideas that you have to conform to a particular group or society. You're now free to choose whatever you like. You in terms of who you are, can be from any point or reference. It's up to you. You just, try things out, see if you like it, see if as long as it doesn't hurt you physically or mentally, it's not damaging to you, then, try it out. I'm not saying don't do drugs or whatever. What I'm saying is that don't be afraid to do things, because right now there's no risk to do things. If you've got no friends, then there's nobody there to criticize you anymore. Nobody there to sort of go, that doesn't matter anymore. You're now free of that. And you can enjoy this freedom in ways that most other people can't. Most people who are concerned about society and what society thinks of them. Although it is difficult, you are going to have these feelings. The feelings that you're having aren't going to necessarily stop. It's just that you now have more of a freedom to go about and do what you want to do. And these will sort of, in many ways, compensate for what you're feeling and how you're feeling. And as long as you get, and I've had this experience where I've had more good then that happened. Uh, because of this, my balance is more happy. You're not going to eliminate sorrow and sadness from your life. That's part of life. Being alive means feeling. That means not only feeling happy all the time, but it means feeling sad. It means feeling this. It means, all the feelings mean that you're alive. And the average person today simply ignores their feelings. They live as a robot. They live as zombies because it doesn't fit into a very specific mold in society, or it's not approved within society to feel to feel all these different things. But because you're no longer part of society, and I'm walking you to the outsides of society here, to the individual, you are now an individual rather than a person within society, you can feel all these things. It's all right to feel what you're feeling. I hope you look good in your dresses. It didn't matter to me which dress you had on, as long as you were happy with it. I mean, people have different sense of styles, and while I may like something that may look good on you, it's up to you how you want to dress and how you want to present yourself. If you want to dress up and feel girly and do that thing, that's fine. If you want to do something else and maybe do, you can take a look at there's this group. Go look, do a search on the internet called Kawaii, Kawai, like Hawaii but with a K. Look at that. Go look at the images on the Google Images, and you'll see all these girls dropped up there from Harajuku Street. There's a whole culture there from Japan, from Asia, surrounding J-pop and K-pop, that is based towards this whole kawaii set. I think this is what I find interesting. You might find it interesting because part of it is a lot of these girls have been rejected from society themselves. It's a moving away from the conventional society, the maturity of society, into back into the attitudes and styles of childhood. It's an anti-sexual movement. Well, most of society today has become very sexually oriented. This is a move away from that. And because you could design your own clothes. You go to thrift shops and stuff. You find a lot of used clothing, and design your own. You tailor and alter it to yourself. You can be you can really start to express yourself in your own, in how you deal with things. In terms of your clothing can reflect your personality more. In other words, it becomes your own style, and you can sort of experiment, to play around with it, and have fun. Anyways, I hope things are that things are gonna be all right with you. If you're at a point where you ever really need to talk, I'm gonna private message you my Skype ID. Call me anytime. I'll also give you my phone. I don't have a cell phone number, so I'm not always here. If you want to, and you need to talk to somebody, record something on your camera and private message it to me. So upload it to YouTube, put it as private, and then message it to me as if you're talking. But make it as if if you want to, make it as if you're talking to me, and I will respond in kind. I'm not going to be writing much anymore in terms of response. I'm going to do much of that. I like this is sort of the virtual interaction, and this is kind of what I like about YouTube, and this is why I'm using the webcam, because it's easier to do this type of thing. Anyways, I hope you'll be okay with everything. Take it easy.